Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Hello, my Kardec Radio friends and all others that may join us here in this wonderful broadcast from Kardec Radio. It's always a joy to be able to broadcast. We come every Thursday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon to bring a chapter reading from the book, The Way, the Truth, and the Life, written by the Spirit Emmanuel through the mediumship of Francisco Candido Xavier. Today's chapter reading is number 136, entitled Earthly and Heavenly Things. And as usual, Emmanuel will give us a New Testament quote, usually a New Testament quote. I think last week it was actually an Old Testament quote from the book of Revelation. And then he builds off of that with what he gives us. After we do the reading, add a few comments, then we say a prayer, and prayer is really important these days. Each one of the 6 o'clock prayers on Kardec Radio, each day we have a 6 o'clock prayer service, and it's been refocused on a prayer for peace. Peace is so very, very important these days because so many of us are scrambling to determine what can we do because of this conflict that's going on between Ukraine and Russia. And what is emphasized to us in the 6 o'clock prayer and is that we can do a whole lot. And that whole lot that we can do is by boosting our peace in our heart. Your heart can direct your mind. You can get out of that materialistic phase that some of us are in. And that's what we want to do. We want our heart to be focused on peace within ourselves, first of all, and then our family, and then our friends and our work relationships. When just within yourself is the major accomplishment, to not get yourself upset and to not react. Anyway, let's get started on the reading, and then we'll say that beautiful prayer. As mentioned, number 136, entitled Earthly and Heavenly Things. The New Testament quote was from Jesus and is recorded by John in chapter 3, verse 12. I have spoken to you of earthly things, yet you do not believe me. How will you believe if I speak to you of heavenly things? Then Emmanuel has written, individuals who study the interchange with the spirit world often complain about the lack of information from communicating spirits with regard to the activities they are involved in there. Why are discarnates not more explicit about the kind of life they have been called to? What are cities? What are their cities, homes, and daily relationships like? But by what means are they organized hierarchically? Oh, well, you get the idea. Do governments follow earthly models? Do their governments follow earthly models? Others ask why scientists who have been liberated from the physical realm do not return to their former centers of research and accomplishments to make known ways to cure so-called incurable diseases or to reveal new inventions that would accelerate world progress. These are hasty arguments of human laziness. If in a methodical course of introduction to more elevated tasks, communicating spirits have dealt almost exclusively with matters concerning incarnates, but have not yet been paid attention to. What would happen if they put their serious obligations aside and began providing information before incarnates were ready for it? Good question. People need to understand that God does indeed provide help for such matters, but each spirit has to fashion its own glory. As for the way it relates to incarnates, the great mission of the spirit world does not entail bringing them sensational and extemporaneous knowledge, but teaching them how to read the divine signs that earthly life contains within itself, thus lighting their way of progress towards the higher realms of the spirit world. And that's the real key, I think. This whole idea of getting to the higher realms of the spirit world. I think it's probably only natural that people will, and you can actually take this to the extreme, and which the argument which I've heard is, you've got us so powerful, why doesn't he just, solve all our problems? And of course, solving all of our problems would not do us any good whatsoever. We have to carve out our own destiny. And when I use that word carve out, that's exactly what we have to do. It's a tough, you might even say mine out, dig out. It's a struggle. We have to go through the process of learning and loving. And it's a learning process to increase our knowledge and hopefully increase our loving capability. Because God, one way to describe God is pure, infinite love. And we have to develop our love primarily first for ourselves. Because if we love ourselves, we will then project that to everyone else. That care for our physical body and that drive to do the good. This is a key component of the Spiritist literature. The drive to do the good, whether it's in your thoughts, your feelings, your words, or actions. These are all key elements of delivering the good, first and foremost to ourselves and as an adjunct to everyone else, because loving and being in a situation where we trust and have the willpower, knowing that we have the trust in God to get us to the point where we look at all those signs, those road signs. Let's go back. Let's see. I don't want to. Come on now. You're supposed to go back. All right. How about you? You want to do that too? Okay. There we go. All right. All right. So back at the beginning, Christ said, "Hey, if you can't handle the things I've told you about the earth, well, how are you going to handle the things I'm going to tell you about heaven?" And of course, people, especially about reincarnation, there's still this great debate about reincarnation, but his little encounter with Nicodemus is a revealing message. And Nicodemus could not handle it, and he was an enlightened member of the temple, very intelligent person, but struggled with that whole idea of being born again, of the water, which would relate to the womb that your mother carries you in. Struggle with that. And of course the apostles understood it, but somebody of Nicodemus's level that didn't understand it, the other people were just not going to understand it. So that kind of sets the stage for this particular message. And of course, the questions are, why don't we have any kind of, and we do for some of these things, like in that second paragraph, why are discounts not more explicit about the ideal life, about the kind of life they have, what are their cities and homes and transportation and relationships like. And some of the Spiritist books, especially I remember No Solar, the first book by Andre Louise, talks about, and it gives you even some illustrations of what their cities look like. And they're just more beautiful than ours, just even at the lowest level of heaven, at the first level, initial first level heaven. I'm not talking about the lower zone. That's as we like to describe it, as sort of like the slums of heaven. That first level is pretty good. No Solar was a first level of heaven, and there's so many dimensions of heaven. That's just a beginning, and it's a beautifully constructed, and people live in houses, but they also work. The invite is always there for them to learn more and to work more. Now, as far as the next paragraph about why don't scientists come back but scientists do come back to where they worked before in their spiritual body, and they stimulate other members there to come up with new particular ideas and investigative research that will propel us towards solving a lot of these so-called incurable diseases and coming up with much more beautiful inventions. And that's happening. I mean, if you look at the way the speed is going on with these things, I mean, the virus vaccine was one example of how quick it came into being, because it had been on the research tables of many of the pharmaceuticals. So there was a head start to it. And of course, too many of us are questioning that it came along so fast and wasn't tested enough. Yeah, they're just not keeping up with the pace that is now going on in this earthly environment. It is a pace that we need to, it is really being kicked into high gear, because we are headed towards that planet of regeneration. And that planet of regeneration cannot sustain people that aren't peacemakers and do not look out for their neighbors. And it's a general way of saying that you must be concerned about all people. Everybody on this earth is a brother and sister. Now, let's see. Okay. And then we talked enough about the last part of this thing, of the message. People need to understand that God does indeed provide us help. And we basically talked about that the spirits are there in all areas of life to encourage us to put the effort and repetition in to be able to solve problems, whether it be in the farming area, whether it be in the medical area, whether it be in the engineering area, or even the law area. Some of our people upon running our country have a long way to go to learn to respect, no matter which side of the fence you're on, to deal with them in a fashion that they would like to be dealt with, and not to poison the environment. There's too much poison going on between the two sides, unfortunately. But we will learn, because God will continue to teach us. There's no doubt about it. And there's no way the spirits are going to bring us sensational or extemporaneous knowledge, because as the titles, as the New Testament quote, if you can't handle the earthly stuff, how are you going to handle something that comes about the heavenly stuff? That is something that we discover each day as we live our lives. God places people and situations in our way, and he does it for a reason, and that's to give us the opportunity to understand how we have the opportunity afforded to us, as we mentioned, each day. We just have to be aware enough to take advantage of it. Okay, enough said about this particular chapter. We will now say a prayer. So let us close our eyes, take a deep breath in, release, and implore Mother, Father, God, Lord Jesus, Mother Mary, and the spirits that always are with us, especially those protector spirits. We are grateful for the opportunity to be here today, and we are always appreciative of your guidance and protection throughout our day and throughout this meeting. We want to focus on encouraging people to develop that peace within their heart, to not be reactive to things that happen. We cannot lash out at people. We must restrain ourselves. A kind word is better than a reactive bombshell for many reasons that are pretty obvious. We cannot afford to continue to create the toxic hatred and revenge, dissatisfaction and resentment. These are all elements that contribute to wars. It's a war, first of all, within ourselves, and then it couldn't be a war within our family, our friends or work relationships, and other, even strangers. We must learn to build that peace brick by brick within our hearts. And maybe that's too strong of a word, the bricks, but maybe little flowers, little rosebuds, bit by bit. We select the peace lily, which I like. Once again, we focus on peace, and we ask that we as individuals pray for that peace within ourselves and for all other people and friends and family that we know, and all those that we don't know. We must continue to develop that peace, to help those in hospitals, those in jails, those in mental institutions, those in refugee status, those crossing the border from Ukraine into Poland and other European countries. It's a lot. It's a lot on our plate these days with the virus, with the weather, the climate, and now this war. But we're responding to it. And it's either going to correct Russia or break Russia, one or the other. Let peace reign in our hearts so that it can be showered across the world through our thoughts and through our words, and of course through our deeds. Thank you. And we ask for permission to end this small prayer, and so be it. Okay, my friends, it's really wonderful to have been here with you and to have been able to share a little bit of time with you. We will be back next Thursday, hopefully, to offer another reading and some insights, and of course, more importantly, to say another prayer. The more prayers we utter, the better life for ourselves and family and all others will be. to minimize our reaction to things, to know there's always some particular reason behind things that happen. So we'll sign off with my love to you and blessings. Thank you for tuning in to Kardec Radio, where we are always nourishing our souls.